So this video is all about biogeochemical cycles. So might sound a little overwhelming at first in terms of what it is, but let's break it down and see if we can understand what biogeochemical is all about. So of course, the first part of biogeochemical is bio, which is all about life, plants, animals, things that are living, right? Geo is all about things that are non-living, like rocks. Okay, so far we have life, rocks, and then chemical. In this case, is going to be all about nutrients, different chemicals, nutrients that life is going to need, and the rocks are going to provide, and it's going to cycle through different situations. So what biogeochemical cycles refers to is the way that nutrients, okay, otherwise known as chemicals, are recycled through the living and non-living components of an environment. Okay, so there are two big ideas with this. The first one is that nutrients are never lost or gained. They're just recycled. You can think of kind of like from physics, you might think about energy. From chemistry, you might think about matter. None of those things are ever lost or gained. They just change forms. Okay? Same thing here with our nutrients. Nutrients also live in reservoirs, and then they go in and out through different pathways. So we're going to explore some of those different reservoirs and different pathways through a couple of different biogeochemical cycles. The one I'm going to talk about here as the example is one you've kind of heard before throughout your kind of academic career, is the water cycle. So what is the water cycle? Well, it's this, right? We have water, it's going to go from all these different locations. Okay, we're going to have in the ocean, we have rivers, we have lakes, we have clouds, and we have lots of different ways of the water making its way back and forth between these situations. So just to be clear, things that are reservoirs are things that are going to store the water, right? So we have lakes, land, ocean. We have underground, this might be underground lakes or just inside the rocks themselves, okay? And the clouds are going to be our reservoirs, places where water is being stored. The pathways out of those reservoirs are going to be all the things with the arrows. So rain falling down, evaporation taking place, transpiration taking place, runoff into the lake, precipitation again coming down. All of these different arrows are going to represent the different pathways to get from one reservoir to another. So these pathways are going to come in three different forms. One, they are biological, either a biological process, a geological process, or a physical process. Okay? Biological meaning having something to do with life, geological meaning something to do with the rocks or the earth, and physical meaning has something to do with energy. So physical process is going to be more of an energy dependent thing. Okay? So first one we'll talk about is a biological process. Think about the water cycle. Okay? We have this process called transpiration, which is the evaporation of water from plants. So you might have seen it before, like you've seen a picture of the rainforest with steam coming off it. Okay, you might not see it every day on every single plant, but if you get a lot of plants in a small area in the right weather conditions, you might see transpiration taking place. Okay, so that's a biological process because it involves the trees giving off the water they've pulled out of their roots. Second one's a geological process. This involves non-living things in the rocks and the earth. So a process called percolation is basically the water seeping its way down into this groundwater flow from the surface, okay, going through the rocks, picking up nutrients along the way, okay. But the process of that water making its way from one reservoir, the clouds, down a path, or from the surface down through the rocks into another reservoir, that groundwater. The last one is a physical process. Again, this is driven by energy, so not life. Okay, no biological process in it, no rocks involved, so like the clouds in this case, precipitation. So the clouds get a lot of water, eventually they get too much water, okay, they condense too much, and then we get precipitation. So basically it's a process driven by the energy. There's no longer enough energy to hold on to that water in the cloud because there's too much of it, and it falls and drops in the form of precipitation and making its way from one reservoir, the cloud, to its second reservoir, the ocean, or maybe the lake, or maybe the river, okay, or maybe the land. Okay, you have all sorts of different reservoirs there where it could potentially make its way to. But you're going to explore this more in some different pathways involving some other chemicals, not just water. But the same concepts are all going to apply.